Welcome back to the Credible Dev YouTube channel. Today, got a little bit of a different video for you. I want to talk a little bit about my website, credibledev.com. Surely many of you have seen it. If you haven't, be sure to go check it out. But I want to talk to you about some changes that I've made with the Credible Dev website. And previously, I had hosted this website on Linode using CyberPanel and Lightspeed, and it had offered great performance. But before that, I'd hosted it the same way with CyberPanel and Lightspeed, but I'd done it on a NameCheap virtual private server rather than Linode. And about 2 months ago-ish, I moved it to Linode under the same kind of setup. And once I'd done that, I started noticing some changes in my search ranking and things like that. As traffic that I was getting, it really started to trend downward. And, as I looked into that more, sometimes you get a different IP address whenever you set up a Linode, or you always get a different IP address. And sometimes those IP addresses can kind of be blacklisted, or maybe there's just some kind of bad reputation with that IP address, which unfortunately can affect how your site ranks in the search rankings. There's things you can do about it with getting it removed from lists and things like that. It can also cause issues with email deliverability. So, it's kind of looking for a different solution. I really didn't want to manage the web server myself. I mean, it was kind of overkill for a WordPress site to be hosted on a virtual private server, especially one like mine that gets, around 10,000 visitors a month on average, or what it was getting before I moved it to Linode. That dropped off pretty good after that. So I was looking for a different solution, and SiteGround had reached out to me. If you're not familiar with them, I'll leave a link down in the description. They had reached out to me about doing kind of like a trial, and instead of setting up the trial, I just dove right into it, and I bought a year's worth of their hosting on their middle package. And I want to talk a bit about my experience from transitioning from that Linode virtual private server, moving my WordPress site from there to SiteGround, and a couple other things about SiteGround which might not be readily apparent that you might want to know about. So first, we'll go take a look at my Linode, and you can see I don't have that Linode server anymore. I just have a Kali Linux server sitting here that I've used for some testing, and here's the IP address if you want to go try to hack it. I haven't done any protection on it or anything like that. I'm not really concerned with it. It was just there for testing some things against my home network. If you're interested in that and setting up Kali Linux on Linode, I can make a video about that if you'd like. Just leave a comment down in the description, and I can do a video on setting that up. It's kind of neat to have one in the cloud. Makes it a little easier for you to do penetration testing against your own home network and things like that. Not really doing anything nefarious with it. It's just for my own testing. So we don't have it here on Linode anymore. And I did just change this. This was just moved yesterday. So I'm still waiting for some DNS propagation. So in some of these areas, my site might not even be available, possibly. And I think this happened because I had it hosted through Cloudflare as far as the CDN. And whenever I was making some changes to the name servers to get everything moved over to SiteGround, I made multiple changes, and I think that caused a delay in the propagation here. So site might not be visible in some places. And whenever you set up your hosting account with SiteGround, this is kind of what you get. I've added some more things here that were kind of hidden in these menus over here on the left, and just made them more available here on the dashboard. But the process of actually moving this site was actually extremely easy and problem-free, which is unusual. Typically, whenever I've moved my WordPress site from one host to another, I always run into some kind of issue, like with a security plugin that's in WordPress, and the site doesn't want to load. Differences in how the htaccess file needs to be configured, stuff like that tends to be a problem that I have to work through once I get it moved over. But Whenever I signed up with SiteGround, they offered a site migration. I've used these tools before with other vendors, but they typically didn't work very well. And this one made it pretty easy. SiteGround gave you a code and a link to a plugin. Download the plugin, upload your plugin to your existing WordPress, and activate the plugin. And whenever you go to the plugin settings, you're putting in that code that SiteGround gave you. And that just kind of links the plugin to your hosting account on SiteGround. So I put that in, you hit start. It took a while, maybe like half an hour or so for it to build up the file that it was going to transfer and collect all the information, all that stuff. But once it was done, I changed my name servers to point everything over. And like I said, I made multiple changes. I kind of screwed that up. But made those changes, and to my surprise, my WordPress site worked like out of the box. I didn't have to do anything. I did do a few things, of course, because SiteGround automatically puts a few plugins into your WordPress site when you transition it over. You get a security plugin, an optimization plugin. So I did disable a few optimization plugins that I already had, since they were conflicting, and SiteGround, when I logged into WordPress, gave me some warnings about that these particular plugins may not play nice with the plugin that they have. So I'm kind of still going through some tweaking on their optimization plugin. So if we take a look at like speed tests for the website, you can see that the pingdom one, and these sites that do this, they all give different numbers. So who's right? I don't know. And some of this could have to do with the DNS propagation too. So I'm not going to hold this against pingdom, but it shows that the performance grade is 61. But if we go over to GT metrics, my performance is 100%. And you can see the locations are different. Like this is in Canada and this one was in the UK. So, that could play a lot into it. But overall, from like my experience, loading up my website in a private tab and just messing around with it on my phone, things like that, I'm pretty satisfied right now with how quickly the site loads, especially once it built the cache, because the SiteGround offers a free CDN, so I don't have to use Cloudflare, and I'm not sure whether in the future I would switch it back to Cloudflare. It's something I'm going to have to play with and kind of test out the performance once everything is kind of settled and see which one's actually better. But they do offer a CDN, which I took advantage of for free. There's also a paid CDN, which offers additional features, but for my use case, I don't think that I need to pay for the additional features. And I'll show you the page speed insights too from Google, and you can see here that its performance is kind of low as well, but we are passing the core web vitals, which is important for your search ranking. And, if we take a look at the Google Search Console, you can see the daily, amount kind of fluctuated for a while. This is going back to July. But then you can see this trend around the time that I switched to the Linode. It started to trail off. So I'm hoping after this change that I made, I'll see that come back up. It's important, this page experience and the core web vitals. You want to make sure that you're passing these tests and that this experience is good, because if it's not, then Google is going to push you further down in the search results because your page doesn't provide a good experience. So those are always important metrics that you want to keep in mind whenever you're setting up a site like this. So everything else with SiteGround has been pretty easy to set up. The SSL certificate, they use Let's Encrypt. You have other options as well, but you can easily set up a Let's Encrypt. And there's another website that I host on this, and when I added it, because I was adding it manually and not really moving a WordPress site or migrating a site like I did the Credible Dev site, it turned on Let's Encrypt automatically for me, so I didn't really have to do anything. You can also enforce HTTPS, so if you want to automatically redirect all of your insecure, assets like images and things like that, you want to force them, and you want to force the entire website to be viewed over HTTPS, you can easily do that. And like I said, they have a cache, and you can configure a lot of different settings with the cache here. And the CDN, you have a few different options here as well. A lot of these are premium features, but you don't really need them in my experience so far. Go back to this page. The apps that they offer, now, you know, with a lot of other shared hosting, you get cPanel. If you're familiar with hosting at all, I'm sure you've seen cPanel before. It's kind of like the gold standard in a way, and SiteGround doesn't really use that. They have their own customized management portal for managing your websites. And with that, the options for applications is somewhat limited. But most people's use cases are either putting, you know, a standard HTML site here that's going to work fine, or a WordPress site. You may do something else, and there's options for that, such as the shopping cart options. And if you want to host a forum, I don't know how many people really do that anymore. Wiki pages, and, you know, a ticketing system for a help desk and CRM. I'm not familiar with these two down here, but you know, you do have some options here for installing some of these additional applications. Email setup, very easy. They give you links like on your phone, like you can come to this panel on your phone and then just download a little file that'll automatically configure your iOS or your Android device for the email that you've set up in here. So that makes it really easy. Setting it up in something like Thunderbird, like I did, and very easy. I just put in my email address, and it auto discovered all the server information and things like that that needed to be filled in, which is a very nice experience. You do get SSH, which they don't exactly make readily apparent. You know, a lot of people don't even have a use case for connecting to it using SSH, but you can connect to it SSH. They don't offer Node.js, or, well, they don't, let's say they don't officially support Node.js. So a lot of like the other hosting providers provide a way for you to host your Node.js apps on here in a fairly easy way, but SiteGround does not. They want you to move over to their VPS type services where you're going to have root access, which granted you're going to need for a lot of things that you might want to do with the Node.js. But I did write a blog post yesterday about how you can work around that and add Node.js to this virtual private server. So this would work for other shared hosting providers as well that offer SSH access. But your experience with Node.js and this kind of setup is not going to be great. But depending on what your use case is for Node.js, it may work for you, and you may not have any limitations with it. But, you know, there are instances of ways you might use Node.js where you're going to get limited because you're going to need additional packages maybe outside of Node.js to manage your setup. So you're not going to really have that here. But just a note, in case you were interested, you can check out that post and install Node.js. And really, that's about it. You know, I may do a follow-up video once I get everything tweaked and, you know, look back over the website performance again after everything's settled. And like I said, the tweaks have been done. But I just wanted to put that video out there for anybody who's been hosting a website on a VPS and is maybe looking to get off of that, and what the experience was with transitioning from the virtual private server that had CyberPanel on it hosting a WordPress site and migrating that over to a shared provider like SiteGround. And if you're interested in signing up with SiteGround, this video isn't sponsored by them or anything. These are my actual opinions about it. They didn't like offer me anything to make this video, but I will leave a link down in the description if you want to help me and the channel out and sign up using that link. I do get a little bit of money back whenever you do a sign up like that, but no pressure. You don't have to. You can just go to siteground.com as well and sign up without any kind of affiliation with me. So that's really all I got for you in this video. If you enjoyed this video, you enjoy the content, consider subscribing, hit the like button. Leave a comment down below if there's any videos you want to see in the future. Let me know down there in the comments. I do read the comments, so please let me know down there anything that you want to let me know. If you didn't like the video, hit that downvote button. Either way, I appreciate your interaction on this video and for checking it out. And everybody have a great day. Thanks.